very special session on AI-led transformation across the fashion value chain. Artificial intelligence is an anachronism in its true sense. It is as real as possible with its impact on how you wake up in the morning, how you work, sleep, or sweep the internet, and how you run your everyday life. Fashion has embraced AI in many ways, from design and development to smart manufacturing and retail. Today, we gather here to witness not one, but two success stories: NIFT's tryst with AI and its research effort, and the global innovation in artificial intelligence. Today's panel discussion brings together leading industry AI experts sharing real world retail and supply chain use cases alongside a spotlight on NIFT's targeted interventions addressing factory floor challenges through AI enabled process automation. Witness today how AI is enabling a more efficient, data driven, and responsive fashion ecosystem. We begin the story of NIFT's tryst with AI. NIFT's technology department accomplished without access to NVIDIA's top-tier chips that every major lab is fighting over today, without massive computing budgets, with no army of AI-qualified researchers, but, ladies and gentlemen, with a hand-picked manufacturers who believed in NIFT and a small team of faculty and students who have indulged in divergent thinking, put on their best creative thinking caps, and marking their footprint intelligently on the artificial intelligence landscape. To present this incredible story, I call on stage my colleague and dear friend and AI expert, Dr. Rashmi Thakur. Rashmi Thakur is a faculty member and researcher at the NIFT Mumbai. She works at the intersection of textiles and artificial intelligence with research interest in computer vision, machine learning, technical textiles, smart wearables, and Industry 4 applications. She also serves as the Chief Operating Officer of the Smart Wearable Systems Incubator at NIFT. My pleasure to call on Dr. Rashmi Thakur. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome her with a round of applause.
Take this. Yeah. So, good morning all over here, and thanks for that introduction. So before we head to the great lineup for the panel discussion, I would just walk you through the NIFT's AI journey. So NIFT's AI journey here, we have been attempting to address the real ground level industrial problems, which is for any of the textile and apparel industry. And through the AI-enabled process of improvisation, we have been trying to address various stages of fashion value chain. And it will be a real quick walkthrough of few of the attempts we have made. Maybe could be product development, production monitoring, or it is predictive maintenance, and the quality assurance. So let's start with the inspection floor, where we all know manual inspection accuracy is limited to 60 to 70%. Still, that's the process adopted across the industry, even with the fact that it's affected by fatigue, distractions, subjectivity. We all are also aware that attention spans 20 to 30 minutes before fatigue sets in for human. And that's the reason probably 85% of the defects detected in a finished garment comprises of the fabric defects. We still rely on human eye for the inspection. So we just took an approach to teach our camera to detect the fabric defects. And in this process, we just were targeting to make our lights camera to come to action and enable a process which is through AI and detect the defects across the fabrics. So the process we targeted to keep it experience independent, fatigue independent, distraction resistant, and of course less time consuming. So our approach, of course, before we proceed, why this has been an open challenge across the globe, I would say, that why can't we automate it all across? There are certain challenges, And the major one is the wide variety of fabrics, the defects, the structure, the looks of the fabrics. If I just take a mere combination of these numericals, we get a 60K plus of combinations. However, through our approach in computer vision, we also realize that yes, one of the factors, that's the fabric structure, need not be taught to the camera through computer vision. And also, the fabric look could be just classified into 4, thus reducing the combinations to this. Further, what we took in our approach was that only 4 of the fabric defects, which contributes to 85% of all the whole library of defects, for the solid wovens, and that gives us a combination of 4 only. However, there are complexities because the geometry of a single class of defects is still irregular, unlike any other manufacturing where you have a periodicity and a fixed geometry even for the defects coming from dyes or molds or whatever. Further, we also deal with, in our industry, infinite variations of color, even though if it's solid. Having said that, that led us to go do a massive task of collecting 5,000 plus images across 6 different factories, further sorting it, annotating and training our models, and getting it tested through a mobile application which was developed on a MATLAB platform. You can just see that the mobile camera is being utilized, and we capture the image, and our model would be able to not only detect but classify and locate this particular defect, you can see, as whole. Currently, we have also proceeded to the deployment at the industry scale, and I would claim here that the solutions which we have built up is able to detect, classify and locate with 97% of accuracy and with as short time of within 2 milliseconds. And that's the industrial deployment on the floor directly. It has led to a publication in one of the research journals. Next, we move to furthermore in quality assurance only, which is, I call, a quieter but a costlier problem, which is fabric shrinkage. I would just like to tell that yes, we all are aware that we get the relaxation shrinkage, which is caused because of the stress build up on a fabric during the process of weaving. And we are able to address that, negate that. However, there is this residual shrinkage, which is really painful for the industry, and they just take a blanket allowance considering the shrinkage. Here, in this particular project, we attempted to predict the fabric shrinkage by the help of regression neural networks and the regression approach, wherein we took the fabric inputs in terms of fabric composition and fabric constructions, and we attempted to predict both lengthwise and widthwise shrinkage. Herein we had explored certain approaches, and just to explain, so this was our approach, wherein you can just see that there were few unknown factors which couldn't be explored. Here we had faced a challenge. If there is industry over here, they would take this up. I mean, we require a lot of historical data to train any of the models. And unlike the previous one where we could go and capture, here we were relying on the data from the vendors. The industry was also dependent. And we were not able to get all these sets very accurately, because of which we had challenges to predict it very correctly. Moving to the sewing floor now, this line itself says that apparel industry still relies on human eye for sewing defect detection. So again, it's a human process, manual, slow and inconsistent, easy to miss, and also a late fix after it appears. It's not in line, it's at the end of the line detection. Just taking an example of a shirt manufacturing industry at a medium to large scale, has a 500 plus sewing machines. In a year, you can just say 30 million plus shirts with 100% manual inspection, in spite of the fact knowing that a single stitch defect occurring on a shirt will lead to rejection of a finished shirt. So here again, we took the approach of computer vision, where we tried to teach our camera to detect the stitch defects. Sorry. So yes, here, since it is a very huge problem, we took a garment that is shirt on a Kansai machine, and there was 3 stitch defects which we took up. Reason being, again, they contributed to 80% of the total defects. So these were the 3 which we took up for our case. And again, having said, there was a huge data set required, because you can see across 30 fabric types, 8,000 plus images were collected. 6,000 of them were then screened, annotated, and taken for the training of the models. And it was tested and deployed. You can see this is on-floor detection of skip stitch and the loose stitch through the camera. So this is further elaborated over here. So what we have built, you can see end to end. That's this laptop screen, that's the machine. This is from the industry sewing floor only, this particular video. So yes, those are the 4 classes, and you can see again here live. So what we have built is a 96+% accuracy of these models, which is able to detect or give the response within 91.7 milliseconds. And this is one of the publications accepted. Next, I'm moving to the sewing machines, which is the heartbeat of our industry, I mean an apparel industry. So here, this is about predictive maintenance, where we are trying to sense the heartbeat of a sewing machine, you can say, with the help of sensors. So first, the parameters are selected. Then the suitable sensors were selected, and the data was captured from these 3 different machines. And finally, the training and testing of this was done. And we have an interesting fact on deployments. What we could see that if we anticipate 1,000 machines to be for it to be implemented on, it has a fiscal impact. Like we have 195% ROI. Having said, because the investment is 9.3 lakhs if it's implemented on 1,000 machines, out of which 6.8 is just for the hardwares. And it has a benefit of the 27.5 lakh if envisaging on 1,000 machines and across the whole fleet. So this was about predictive maintenance. Now next is, the line says it all. It's again repeating the same issue, that measurement of garments is also being manually done across the industry. And as I said, the same issue, it is subjective, time consuming, and involves human error, of course. So again, let's teach the camera to measure a t-shirt. Here we took, for our garment, we have selected t-shirts. Again, a huge data set of collection of 6,000 plus images from 3 different factories, screened down to 4,500 images, which were annotated, and the model trained for key point detection. Here it varied a bit from the previous 2 problems, because here we were trying to detect a key point, as it's a matter of garment dimension measurement. So we couldn't compromise on the pixels. And the deployment and testing will say it all. This is a complete interface, you can see. So once the image is captured by the camera, you can upload your spec sheet, your data of the measurements. It compares the measurements taken by our model with the given thing, and then it says you pass or fail. Further, you can source this to an Excel where you get all the data. So this is going to build a huge data set in future. Like if you implement it today, maybe 1 year later, you'll be able to provide us with these data so that we can build further more. So this can be taken, sourced out. And this was again deployed and lab tested with 95% accuracy. The solution enables, as I said, you can see the 15, so this is detected by the model, the 15 measurement points across which you get the measurement details. This is just a comparison of automatic and manual process, wherein you will get to see at the end of the video that how long an automatic process takes and a manual process takes. This has been done in the lab setup, and you will observe it would be done within 3 seconds. And that takes that long, and with an accuracy of 90+%. The software here has been, copyright has been obtained for this. And finally, we move to the pattern room. And what you get to see here is that what if our actual shape, we start from there, and if every pattern started with our actual shape. That's what this project is about, that from the 3D body measurements, we lead to this through an AI approach. So AI-enabled pattern creation, wherein a working browser-based tool that turns a 3D body form into a production-ready flat pattern has been created. So the approach here is, again, you can see this is the normal process. So we were able to come up with 21 functional features built and tested, and the flattened segments match the 3D geodesics. And the files which we get are having the extensions which is industry friendly, so they did not have a CAD plugin. So these were a quick walkthroughs of 6 of the stories, I would say, which goes through one thread. As Dr. Nitya has already introduced you, that's the frugal approach, right? So it has all been built on through mobile cameras, self-fabricated stands to capture the images, right? And you can say borrowed credentials for the softwares, not a very heavy GPUs. And still we came through this. Thanks to NIFT for this support, and also the industry partners who trusted us, who believed in us, helped us with the data, with the pilots, with the testing. So we would like to thank them. And of course, not very uncommon platforms of the models which we have, the pre-trained models which we use to transfer learning, and the software platforms which anybody who takes up this area is aware of, right? And if I don't do the next, it won't be justified that this all work was done by a group of our students, researchers, alumni, and we would like to bring them on stage in this manner and would like to acknowledge their efforts. And what we call them is NIFT AI Warriors, built with grit, not GPUs. So thank you all. Thanks to the students who compiled this presentation. Yeah.
What a wonderful story, Dr. Rashmi. When you mentioned lights, camera, and action, I was looking for a blockbuster and didn't think you've just delivered that. Heartiest congratulations on such a beautiful presentations. Ladies and gentlemen, I am sure you will agree with me. NIFT researchers have cracked this AI puzzle with sheer determination and steely resolve. And it's just a story of how the brilliance of the human mind can come together with the razor-sharp accuracy of AI. I'm also again reiterating, as Dr. Rashmi was mentioning, that an acknowledgement is owed to the Shahi chair, under whose patronage also we could explore this journey. Thank you so much for this wonderful, wonderful story. To take this forward, ladies and gentlemen, we now move on with our panel discussion, where we would be hearing more about specific use cases explored by our esteemed panelists. To give you a preview, we will be listening to our experts talk about the plethora of possibilities that they have explored with artificial intelligence, ranging from the use of AI to select the right fabric, to create a BOM for costing, for SMV recommendations, to map lost production time, and interestingly, to arrest margin erosion as well. Now we will present use cases from the global AI landscape through this panel discussion. It is my absolute pleasure to introduce the panelists for this discussion, and I would request them to step up on stage as I call them out. Our first panelist is Mr. Asim Chitkara, co-founder of Stitch, or STCH, a CDMO building AI-powered fabric GPT and a curated ODM platform to transform apparel sourcing and product development. He brings over 30 years of experience across textiles, sourcing, supply chain, and retail leadership at Arvind, Vardhaman, and Zetwork, combining deep industry expertise with AI. Welcome to the panel, Dr. Chitkara. Our next panelist is Mr. Bodo Voet, founder of OpenSeam, a company bringing real-time production intelligence to factories. OpenSeam uses sensors and AI to help factories discover constraints and bottlenecks, balance lines in real time, and unlock hidden capacity. Before founding OpenSeam, Mr. Bodo was a product manager at Microsoft, working in R&D on AI and IoT for industrial applications. Welcome, Mr. Borovit. Our third panelist for today, Mr. Rakesh Ranjan, brings over 25 years of global experience in the fashion and retail industry, covering sourcing, production, management consulting, and most recently, digital transformation. In his current role, he leads the global tech and digital function for purchase and production at H&M. He also holds a global patent as an inventor, and he's a proud alumnus of NIFT Kolkata. Mr. Rakesh Ranjan, on stage, please. Ladies and gentlemen, put your hands together for Ms. Seema Agarwal, who's a strategic business leader with 27 plus years of global PL&L experience across AI, Gen AI, and analytics in retail and consumer packaged goods. A recognized AI thought leader and industry speaker at NRF, NASSCOM, CII, and RAI, to name a few. She drives enterprise transformation worldwide. She mentors young women and is an IIT Delhi and IIM Kolkata alumna. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Seema Agarwal. Our next panelist is Ms. Shruti Grover, co-founder and CEO of Mani AI, pioneering AI solutions for apparel costing, POM creation, and supplier allocation. Experienced in bridging brand and manufacturing workflows with a focus on data-driven decision-making and supply chain coordination. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Shruti Grover. I welcome Dr. Rashmi Thakur to please take her space also as a panelist on stage. We have already met her with the beautiful presentation that she had done on Frugal AI and NIFT. And last, but certainly not least, to moderate the panel, I will call upon Professor Prabir Jana, an internationally recognized expert in apparel manufacturing technology and Industry 4.0, former Shahi Chair Professor at the National Institute of Fashion Technology. Dr. Jana has over 35 years of experience in academia and industry. He has authored 15 books, published 300 plus technical articles, holds 5 patents, and is a frequent keynote speaker on digital transformation in apparel manufacturing. I may add, he's one of the most beloved faculties of the technology department. Dr. Jana, I hand over the mic now to you to take the panel discussion ahead.
Thank you, Nitya. Hello? Yeah. I think we have seen the NIFT journey. Now we'll see that what is happening around the world. And what we have curated is throughout the let's say supply chain, how exactly from the beginning, wherever we can capture, where all the AI use cases can run. Now we'll start with Asim. I will ask Asim to briefly describe that how he is using AI in selecting the right fabric design and right fabric specifications. You have to move because they have to see this.
Hi guys, I am Asim from Stitch. We started this journey almost close to around 1.5 years back, understanding what are the challenges which we can solve for the industry. One of that was fabric innovation, and second was the sell-through from a design point of view. How can we solve these two challenges from an AI tool, AI infrastructure? Fabric we know is an integral part of a garment. It is almost 50% of the cost of goods. It actually starts, the fabric development starts not even from brand and retail. It starts from a consumer when they have to give new products to their buyers, and they go back to the mill for the development of those particular fabrics. Mill does it, does different iteration, does different kind of detailing into it, and then give the fabric to brand. Rather than going to a mill, imagine a tool which has the data set of inputs and outputs already with us, where you give any kind of query. You want a fabric with a better sheen, better twill line, better guidelines, and tools, depending on whatever attributes you are looking at, give you an output that for this garment attribute, this fabric output will be the right output which we can work on. It defines the output attributes on detailed level, and tool gets into the data set again and find out the inputs what is required to make a fabric. Now, whatever attributes are required to make that fabric is decided by tool and not by the mill. So we don't go into number of iterations, we don't go into the number of details, we don't go into making new fabrics, wasting them. Rather than tool giving you what is the kind of fabric which will be required for a brand, it's much better basis, much quicker, and brand can launch it quickly. Second is the design tool, where we collect the data of design from different inputs, different sources, different brands. Our tool analyzes what kind of data is there on the attribute basis, what are the better attributes which are selling in the market, which attributes are not that strong in the market, and then you map that attributes to the brand DNA. Different brands have different DNAs, like Gen Z, denims. Imagine a woman with 30 plus looking into some kind of product categories you want to launch. And tool will give you the information set of all these designs. They define on fabric, wash, fit, trims, details and all. And then you make these ODM sheets from your side, which can help you increase your sell-through, reduce your inventory. This journey actually started for us almost 6 to 8 months back when I was in UK with a couple of brands. And they were buying some certain garments from Turkey, and they asked us to map those garments in India. That was our first test and trial, almost around 6 to 8 months back, where we went to our fabric GPT tool and design GPT tool and tried to work out this garment can be done. We successfully did it. I will not say it was complete, but it was fairly successful. We have already supplied 50,000 pieces of that collets and long lines to that particular brand. Now we are going into the larger data sets to make that tool much more better, to give you the finer details. I'm in touch with already 6 brands in India who have tested and tried, and for Indian brands, as of today, we are at close to 90 to 95% of accuracy on ODM sheets. That OEM which they were asking us to go to UK or to US and give you the details of what designs to capture, rather than that ODM sheet is giving them the designs, giving them the accuracy to make a product with the better sell-throughs. Now we are trying to go to the international market with the same tools. Fabric GPT tool is already at much better state. We have almost close to 40,000 row items. We will be reaching almost 100,000 row items by next quarter. And once we take this tool to international market, I think it will help them to improve sell-throughs and reduce inventory, which is the major challenge. Thanks, everyone.
Yeah, thank you, Asim. Now, we have seen 2 applications, selecting the right design and the right fabric through AI. Let's move to the production now. I request Shruti to describe how she is using AI for creating BOM and costing.
So hi, I'm Shruti Grover from Mani AI, and we are an AI-powered PLM. This is the first case study, which is from an Indian brand. Technosports has about a 700 crore turnover, and they are one of the leading activewear brands in India. How our solution works, this is part of the entire MES, and this is a module within it. Our AI reads the tech pack as soon as they enter it in. We then have them enter the size range. From that point onwards, the AI takes over. So from the tech pack itself, we read the contrast trims, the order quantities, the size ratios which are in there, and we generate the full bill of materials. This bill of materials contains every line item which is possible for that particular tech pack. Here you can see around 15 sub-suppliers who are all in this bill of materials, and with a single click, Technosports now sends these POs to all of their suppliers. So here we are talking about around 1,500 POs being generated per month for them for 4 million garments, which they estimate is about 2,000 to 3,000 emails which are being saved for them every month. And our other clients are using the same product for shipping 1,200 styles a week. So we are taking all the boring manual work out of production just on this particular module. We have another module which is called flash costing, which we are piloting with the likes of Gap, Target in the US. And this addresses one of the big problems which is in the industry, that about 15 to 30% of designs which are being sketched by a designer and are sent to manufacturers in India or anywhere in the world for costing, they don't meet targets. So the cost of even quoting for that particular item, and the time is completely wasted. So we've generated a tool where a designer can simply upload a tech pack or a sketch, and we can instantly calculate the BOM, the labor cost, as well as the total unit cost. The designers can go into the particular features of the garment and start to edit them to see, okay, if I change the number of, let's say, belt loops or remove the vents, what would be the impact of the cost on the cost of this garment for the labor side. If they don't want to go deeper into these kind of specific features, they can just chat to our module, which is the Mani AI chatbot. And they can say, okay, I want to achieve this particular target cost. How can I modify this design to achieve that cost? They will see a detailed bill of materials, so they can swap materials out from their own company's library, or they can ask the AI again to recommend something which is either more sustainable or has certain qualities. We auto-calculate consumption as well based on the size ratios as well as the brand's point of measures instantly, and that's what goes into the cost estimation. So again, I mean, with these modules, we're going very deep into particular specific workflows to save large enterprise brands a lot of time. And each of our AI modules is continuously learning. So for example, this particular module, every time a new style is added, it remembers it, and we surface it again for similar costing. In terms of accuracy, we see anywhere up to 95% accuracy on just a sketch and a fabric number. So, if you have a dedicated fabric where the cost is known, we see 95% prediction accuracy. So this is the kind of workflows which we are doing, and they are part of our larger AI PLM. So we have one Indian customer, we are looking for more, and would love to chat with anybody afterwards. Thank you.
Thank you, Shruti. Wow. I think we see how this solution providers, who are very, very young startups, are actually already started disrupting the way we typically think the garments was supposed to be made. Now, I think I will request Rakesh. Now, Rakesh represents H&M. Now, we have heard two of the solution providers. Now, Rakesh will tell that how H&M is using AI for SMB recommendation and quality compliance. We are now listening every functions and how AI is actually changing that functions. Yes, over to Rakesh.
Thank you, sir. Hello, everyone. After our digital transformation and data journey, we thought of using AI for our business strategic decisions. And we started working around a lot of use cases, out of which I'll talk about two use cases today. The first one is SMB recommendation. And the second one is quality compliance automation. So SMB, I think all of you know, that is basically a time taken by a qualified operator to produce a garment. And this value is used for many decisions over there, starting from capacity to planning to costing. So now when you talk about SMB, it basically starts with motions to seams to parts, and all assemble part together to a garment. For example, what you're seeing it right now, a cert takes about 15.50 to get it produced, but then it's done by industrial engineers, qualified industrial engineers, and they take about 1 to 3 hours to calculate. It could be done by either conventional time and motion study, or it can be done by any softwares. But it takes time for industrial engineers to basically do it. Think about a brand like us, where we have several 100,000 of products for which we have to calculate SMV. It's not possible if we do it basically in a conventional way. So we thought of having an AI use case. So what we do is that the moment we have a new product, we extract that particular sketch from TechPack, and then basically with the image recognition, it scans all images over there in the past place styles and finds the best, closest match, and then you have SMV. But then the product what you're quoting could be because of, could have a different variability, considering different target groups, different kind of fabric. So what happens that, considering all these factors, the SMV get adjusted. And finally, we get SMV what we are basically looking for this specific product. So everything is done within seconds. So when initially it used to take over 1 to 3 hours, now in seconds, and used in many of our purposes, taking a strategic decision about costing, capacity management, planning processes, and doing supplier plan, which is done in minutes in H&M. So that was SMV recommendation. Now I'll talk about quality compliance automation. So like any global retailer, we need to adhere the quality compliance over there in selling countries. So there are certain regulations, we need to follow it. And we have suppliers around the world. So what happens that when testings are done either in supplier's lab or third-party lab, there are a lot of data which is generated in terms of test results, and a lot of certificates which are generated to adhere those test results. So normally what happens that humanly an expert need to see to it that this is the product, this is the selling market, and these are the list of tests which has to be done. Pretty difficult. So what we have done, we have created a dynamic rule engine based on product and selling market. Automatically placeholders of tests are generated, and then all results are uploaded. So what happens that AI agents come and verifies all these test results in terms of whether it complies all regulations, whether could be a risk of authentication, that is basically taken care of. So anything which are not at part of adherence of the quality compliance gets flagged in real time to suppliers as well as to us. So that hundreds of thousands of articles which we place, is basically independent of manual intervention. It's done automatically. It has been working pretty good. We started almost about 1.5 years back, working perfectly all right. SME recommendation is something which we started about a year back. Still a lot of things to do, but then still is in the business use right now. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you, Rakesh. So we are inching closer to the shop floor, which is the most difficult part. Now I will ask Bodo to probably, he has cracked the code which everybody is looking for. I will ask Bodo to describe how he is using IoT and AI to capture the sewing intelligence. Over to you, Bodo.
All right, my name is Bodo. I'm founder and CEO of OpenSeam. We figured that sewing machines are essentially hammers on high RPM cradled in the same location. So why not slap some sensors on and see what happens? That's how the journey started. What it actually unlocks is a huge wealth of production data that is locked in the machine, being mechanical, being analog, and not really getting any real-time view of what's really happening on the floor. This is our device, and this is a previous prototype, but it literally attaches in under a minute with uses whatever power supply is available and Wi-Fi to send data through. I appreciate that the video is actually going a lot faster than I'm explaining these things. But what we found to be the most important metric that the factories really cared about is how much time are they losing, or at least that's what their CFOs mostly care about, in terms of could there be that we're not really seeing what the constraints are. So from a methodology perspective, since this is also an academic event, we're really looking at the theory of constraints, if you will. So where do we actually send someone? Should they actually go to a supervisor, an IE, find a problem where it actually occurs as opposed to hunting them down. So our intelligence layer is very much focused on that discovery. And most of it is attached to time and the use of time, on when the time is actually not productive. Or when it is productive, how do we attach it to pace, proficiency in this case? We attach it to a real-time view of how throughput goes across. Can we attach it to how efficiency changes across the shift by way of momentum or fatigue? And could there be an indication of how that might attach to skill and need of training, or maybe the line was planned incorrectly? Yeah, sorry. You can resume the video. Thank you. I would say that actually this is a very good example. This is one of our pilots in Thailand. You can see our device on the machine there on the right. In this case specifically, they found that it was very useful for them to find whether they should set up a team of champions with a different target instead of giving every line the same target or the same capacity, by being able to find skill files that would align better so as to lose less time. Ultimately, the loss of time can be anywhere in between operations. It needs to be found and aggregated in some way, and that is very much how we look at unlocking the data, if you will. But for most, we're just a data source. This ladders up into an MES or an ERP and to other systems where ultimately this can be used as a data. The biggest problem that we found with factories is that ultimately it really sits as data being a source that is blocked, and that blockage is very much a hardware problem. So we thought, why don't we solve the hardware problem by attaching sensors and then developing machine learning models that can reveal the metrics that are most relevant to the factories.
Thank you, Bodo. Now, see, what we are witnessing is that the people from outside the industry has to, because they can think differently out of the box, and they're now trying to crack the code probably, which we are struggling now. Let's move to retail, and probably the retail faces the highest uncertainty in the supply chain because it's based on the mood of the consumer. Now, let Seema explain that how she is using AI and for personalized experience and product performance. Over to you, Seema. Yeah.
Thanks, Praveen. Hello, everyone. So I'll share my perspective onto the two major pillars in the industry, which is customer and merchandising, which is impacting the most of the P&L of any of the business. So coming to, the customer, today customer is interacting through your website, through your app, email, your stores. He's 6 different channels and is of 6 different version. Now, how do I convert that customer for my brand, because every brand is shouting the same thing, right? And the answer lies that how do I create the personalization and create his customer experience better, right? And the first step is to know your customer. So what we do that, we take the data from all kind of channels, your emails, your, CRM, your, loyalty data, and trying to understand who is your customer. And then marry with this data with, multiple records. Every time the customers interact, that become one signal or record for us, right? And that record we merge with the customer data and make the golden record. And the next step is that how do we predict what will they buy next? And for that, again, the intelligence layer runs multiple models to figure it out what is the next best action would be. Okay, and based on that, we can target the promotion to the customer. And every time the customer buys, then again that becomes the feedback to the model and generate the better predictions. And that's why when such kind of golden records or such kind of mechanisms we run to the multiple millions of the customer, you can see the impact it creates onto the P&L. Many customers are already enjoying these personalizations to improve the customer experience, and we have seen the growth into their revenue, their margin, and then conversion rate. And that's the power of the personalization at scales. So that's the one from the customer perspective. I'd like to talk about the another onto the merchandising. I think without that, the fashion is not complete. And we all know in a fashion, every season we launch 1,000 of the new styles, right? And the fact is that the one out of the two styles we sell on the discount. That means the margin is leakage. How to protect the margin? Now, the problem is not the design stage, but it's throughout the product life cycle. So at the design stage for the new product, we don't have the historical data. Right, any model in the ML we required at least 3 rows of data, but in the new product we don't have the data. Now today the AI can extract the attribute from the image or the text using the computer vision technique. We can see that whether what is the color, what is the sleeve length, what is the neck, what is the pattern of the merchandise, right? And now using this attribute together, we can figure it out what would be the demand. And not only the demand, we can also look at whether the combination of this attribute will be a seller or will be a loser. Okay, we can also tell which are the attribute, whether is the color, whether it's the MRP is responsible for the underperformance, and we can fix it up that. So that become the pre-season stage. And once the season start, the AI can continuously monitor the performance, and together with your historical data and your market data, your competitive landscape, we can also look at which basically products are not going to perform well. And then AI can suggest what should be the course corrective action, whether we should transfer those items or whether we should put the markdown or whether we should do any kind of promotion and so on. And once we take the corrective action, the last step is to execute. And today into the agentic era, we have agents. We can make the agents, we can make a demand agents, which can update the forecast, we can make the marketing agent, which can activate the campaign, we can make the stock agent, which can allocate. So together with the agent and the human with the loop, we can execute the course correction before opportunity lost happen. And that's where not only we improve the revenue of the business, but also help to protect the margin. And that's the power of the AI we are playing across the world today. Happy to answer if there's any question on that. Thank you.
Thank you, Seema. Now I will turn back to Bodo and Shruti, because both of them came from different industries. Okay. Now tell me, because obviously first, let's say few years or maybe few months, you took to understand this industry, whether you call it nuances of the industry or the best part of our industry. Now tell me, while building the solutions, what are those key eureka moment when you thought that, yes, my solution is going to work, what I think is going to work, because you are trying to solve a problem for a different industry. So I think I will go with Bodo and then we'll come to Shruti, you. Okay, over to you, Bodo.
Yeah. So at Microsoft, I worked on the early stages of AI and the industrial applications of IoT. And the tech was not the difficult part. The part was the operational implementation with the industrial environments that were not ready. And the most important problem of those industrial domains was the lack of data. Or whatever data was there was not really standardized or usable. Garbage in, garbage out, as they say. The AI cannot actually do anything, because the AI is actually just a series of really good algorithms. If there isn't any good data coming in, there isn't really anything valuable coming out. When I looked at the garmenting industry, that's exactly what I found. About 50 million active sewing machines at any point in time around the world, all mechanical, all analog, and giving zero data. Sure, some suppliers, Yuki brother, have tried to put sensors in there. They've also made their machines 3 times more expensive. But ultimately what matters to the factory is that whichever machine they have on the floor, whether it's new or 60 years old, or it's riveting and stomps, or it's quiet, there needs to be some kind of agnostic universal way to unlock that data. And so the primary objective was really, how can we unlock the data? What really sparked the interest was the enthusiasm and appetite for that data to then also become operationally useful. Okay. And that's where we then went from the data into the AI domain, the intelligence layer domain of how can we make this immediately relevant in real time.
Okay.
That made it very appealing.
Thank you. Now, Shruti, yes, you also from different industry. Like I think, stone
Yes.
processing or, from there to
Yes.
garmenting. Yeah.
I've always been in manufacturing. Actually, my dad is here in the audience today.
Oh.
And he used to run a carburetor parts factory. Then I moved on to stone manufacturing, setting up things at the airport, for example. But I'm technically trained as an engineer, and I was working in medical technology during the COVID time, and in software, AI, and looking at advising how can money be spent on clinical AI solutions. Coincidentally, I took up sewing because in the UK there was a big PPE shortage at that time. So the garments which are worn by doctors, nurses, there just weren't enough. So we were forming these groups and making clothes, scrubs for doctors and nurses. And from that came this idea, wouldn't it be fun if people got together and made clothes? So the first thing, being an engineer, I did was make a cutting machine. So built a cutting machine, and in London there's a museum called Victoria and Albert Museum. So over there we did a pop-up. We had a big cutting machine which is super safe to use, and people came and they were sewing their clothes. We had 6 designers from British Fashion Council. So people scanned a garment, the machine would instantly cut something, and then they would sew very nice, complex clothes, and we were having fun. It was a side project. But because coincidentally Fashion Revolution covered that event, all of these brands came, like there were about 400 visitors in a matter of 2 days, of which about 20 to 30 were brand representatives who said, do you know what? You're making it look so effortless. Real-time, on-demand production is a massive effort. Short lead time production is a huge effort for us to do. And we started a factory in London. I hired 6 Ukrainian machinists, and we started doing it. And immediately, because my background was software, we realized the problem of short lead time is in all the processes beforehand, doing the costing, managing the inventory, communicating it to the manufacturer, setting up the line. And that's how we started pushing ourselves to understand things. So that's my background. और पापा तो अभी भी बोलते हैं टेलर बन गई है.
Okay, thank you. Rakesh, because we are again, I'll just again take a dip because we are talking about AI, and I think sometimes it is a little bit of abused, because where probably AI is not needed, still people use AI, or sometimes for a solution provider, it's good to have a word called AI, whether I'm using AI or not. If I say AI led, or probably it sells more. From your perspective, because you are not selling solutions, you are doing for your own improvement. If you can tell some examples where probably you said no, algorithm works fine. We don't need an AI. If you just tell, because it will be good for probably the audience to understand where AI may not be needed. Yeah, please.
I mean, AI is everywhere. Everybody talks about AI, but not everything is AI. So for all solutions or all problems we are solving could be solved by simple algorithm, not necessarily AI. So if processes are set and rules are known, then a simple algo can solve problems. But wherever there is a prediction, there's a complex character, a large text to analyze, then AI comes into play. I can give you an example of, let's suppose you have a product and you're looking for a supplier. We know that what we are looking for. We are looking for capacity, we are looking for quality, cost, sustainability, and so on and so forth. So if we can, basically if we have a data and give weightage to this, we can find that which supplier is the best supplier for that specific product. That is algo. Simply, a second example could be that, if, let's say, we ask supplier to give their energy consumption data. And if supplier is giving them by manually punching, data doesn't look reliable, it could be very well flagged by simple algo that, this doesn't look like within the range for that kind of production quantity. So, see, AI is there, people have to adopt, but before that, it's important to have a simplistic approach to start with, which could be algo-based. So we need to ask certain questions. Asking question is that whether we have the process in place, yes. If we have, let's say, rules known, yes. If we don't have a lot of data, then probably AI will fail. And it could be also that if it's a very complex structured analysis, forecasting, then AI will definitely help.
Yeah.
So therefore, there's a difference between algo and AI, and we should have a right approach of adopting, which should be more feasible to work.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I'll also put it that way, that when it's a black and white, use algo. When there is a gray area, use AI. Because we need to understand that moment you're talking about AI, because data is fed, that means your past experience has been used. If past you did a mistake, it actually you're teaching mistakes to the, so as long as possible that if it is a black and white calculation, just go for algo. Okay, coming back, probably, if you can, because now everybody is trying to do something on their own, like H&M did for their own, because they have developed some of the applications. If Shruti, you can mention probably one AI application which you think that manufacturers or retailers can develop on their own. Yes. I know it is going to cut your, let's say, because you are a solution provider, but that will be good, helpful for them. Okay, if I have this data, if I have this thing, what expertise I need, I can probably build my own application or build my own.
Absolutely, I'm very passionate about getting people to use it and interrogate it. And we in fact run these Claude workshops all the time for industrial engineers, for manufacturers, to teach them how are we using it so they can understand our product, right? So the first thing which I'd say is use Claude and set it up in a very simple way. So this is something which I call the organizational brain. So if you're a small organization or a small to medium organization, you will start seeing silos, as you're growing between departments. And a lot of your knowledge might be with certain employees who might be on holiday, who might be going on leave. One of the simplest things which you can do as a company when you're in these growing, scaling stages is start putting your documents which need to be common knowledge within the company just in a folder. Just put them in a folder and you give it to Claude Cowork. And once you connect an AI model to a drive or to a folder where those documents remain, any employee can question those documents to get answers very quickly instead of searching through documents and documents and documents. So this organization brain, anybody can set up very easily, and it makes use and makes life easy. So you can set it up for any purpose.
Okay, so that means there is a business opportunity. We can become Claude apparel, Claude trainers, or whatever. Okay, very good. Aseem, you address retailers, manufacturers both. I feel there must be, some class, like let's say when you approach for a solution, do you find any difference between how exactly a retailer addresses that or listens to you and trying to, probably understand or react? And so is there a difference between a retailer and a manufacturer? And why? If you feel that, maybe because you have a long work experience in this country, probably you'll be able to explain that probably this is the reason why they react like this and why the other person reacts.
So Prabir, actually, what is AI doing? AI is trying to solve your problem of either losses or any other challenge quicker and better, right? So in case of brand and retail, their major challenge is the inventory, leftover inventory, as well as the sell-through. So brand and retail always look from a point of view that how can I use tech so that I have the right amount of inventory? How can my sell-through increase where the losses are much lesser? While factory always look from a point of view, for a brand or a retailer, consumer is a buyer. For a factory, majorly brand is a buyer. So they look it from a point of view, how can they adjust cost? How can they look into production? How can they improve the productivity? How the supply chain works? So both of them look into different buckets. But my feeling is, I was speaking to Shruti's team yesterday, and one of the brand gave them a challenge of delivering garment in 14 days from design to delivery. Now, if both of garment manufacturer and brand and retail does not align together to solve the challenge, I think that is difficult. So my understanding here is it is a complete supply chain. Let's not look at from brand retail what they want to solve and B2B what they want to solve. There is an inefficiency in the complete flow, inefficiency in the complete system. Let's think from a point of view that how your wastage comes down, how your sell-through improves, how your inventory goes down from a consumer till fabric. That's the whole thought process it should be.
Maybe actually I was looking at, is there a mindset difference? Because that's my...
No doubt about it, Prabir. There is, means...
Which mindset is better to adopt?
No, I will not pinpoint any of the mindset here, Prabir.
So you are
very
diplomatic,
frankly.
okay. Okay.
But yes,
I think,
there is
yeah.
a difference.
I will ask probably one piece of advice from Seema and Rakesh, that if any organization is planning to go for, or they think that they have to go for, what one piece of advice, what they should do, probably preparing themselves for the AI adoptions or whatever. So maybe a quick piece of advice, first from Seema. Yeah.
Good question, Prabir. And I think somewhere you were saying that, wherever is black and white, use the not AI and then gray. So it's actually right, I would suggest that focus on to the value, not on hype, right? And for any organization, because AI, as you said, everywhere, but you have to figure it out what is the use cases which can make the biggest impact, what is the business problem. Figure it out that, think big, and then take the small use case, start with the small, to work upon that, bring your company, your team, your organization involved into that so that AI adoption can happen, and then scale it. So think big, start small, and scale fast. And that is where I would say that you can see the ROI and better AI adoption as well.
Thank you. Rakesh, one piece of, because you deal with multiple manufacturers, probably from that point of view, what they should do.
I mean, I love going to factories. Had I knew your factory in London, I was in London last week, so I'd have come to you. But coming back to, piece of advice to suppliers. So whenever I meet supplier, I tried correlating with their businesses. So, you can't have a factory without raw material. So if you don't have raw material, you'll not produce anything in a factory. So similarly, data is like a raw material, factory is like AI, and your product is like business outcome, as you said. So unless until you don't have a good data, you can't have AI. Even if you have a good data, but you don't have a business case, the outcome is not there. So therefore, it's very, very important to see to it that what is winning combination. So winning combination today, and companies which are getting leverage of AI is that who are connecting data to decision. So that red thread is very important. Coming back to suppliers, I always tell them that not necessary you have to have a lot of big scale budget and a very technologically advanced technology to work on AI. What is needed is basically vision, use cases for your strategic outcome. The second is that invest in data and business processes. Third could be, it's not a short-term game. It's always long-term. So when you work on AI, you have to keep on iterating, continuously improving it. So then it becomes a kind of a winning game. So, and fourth and most important, change management. Because what happens that normally we are used to analog kind of stuff in our industry. So we basically, always have an element of doubt. So that change mindset is required to make sure that whatever AI solutions are there comes to business use. So
Now,
these four factors.
now a secret question. You may like to answer, may not. As because what you have not said is, being an H&M, how many data scientists you employ? So that will give probably a message that it is who need to be there, maybe working with you.
You know,
You don't need to tell me the number, but probably you can acknowledge
Okay.
that, which or who makes the difference and how it should be done for the companies.
see, everything starts with digitization. So I'll
Yeah.
say that, normally if you ask somebody that, okay, company like H&M, how many software engineers or how many people would be there in your tech team? We have more than 2,000 people working. Today we have more than 300 data scientists working across value chain. But then they can't work on unless until we have digitized our ecosystem. So then only the data scientists come and then create magic.
Yeah, important is you need to understand with the domain knowledge, you also need to have that part of it. You can't build probably everything yourself, so you need to have that. That's the message. You might not have 300, but then you need to understand that is required.
Yeah, but 300 is not all data scientists.
I
Data
know.
scientists, engineers,
Yes.
MLEs, and
Yeah.
data engineers and all. Yeah.
Yeah. Now, data is the last question to, the data is the new oil for AI engine we all talked about. Now, I have my favorite question to ask because what manufacturer struggles is retail has a data all over. People can scrap over the net and create a solution and offer. That means I am creating a solution from Mintra's data and then, let's say offering to probably Mintra's competition. That is not possible in manufacturer because today the manufacturer data is not available. How do you think this data democratization has to happen if you have any idea that, so that I actually use some manufacturer's data to train the model and then the model is then giving it to other manufacturer who are maybe their competition. Why I'm saying that is probably you have realized when Rashmi was presenting, initially when we have actually trained our model with one company's data and we have applied that to another company. But the problem is we are an institute, so we are agnostic. But how a solution provider will do that is that, people will say, oh, this is my data. Do you face this kind of problem? Now, the question to Asim and Bodo, what do you think? First to Asim.
Yeah, difficult question to answer, Pravir. No doubt about it. This is really one of the challenge of the industry. But let us look at from this point of view. Means ERP data maybe 10 years back for anyone was their internal data, right? Today there are national ERP tools where all the data of the factories are being put in. Right? And AI will change the industry, everybody understand. I'll not say it is democratization of data, but there are people who understand this, that country will change, AI will change the industry, and there are collaborators who want to work on it. When we started this exercise almost a year back, very frankly, we hit the wall. There was a challenge of getting the data, but our Fabric GPT tool need that data because how do you work on input and output without having the data? And then luckily we found out 2-3 things. Number one, there are a lot of places where the basic data is stored, be it universities, college, NIFT, whatever. And there were certain partners who understand that some of the basic data is part of the industry across the companies. Means if I put it this way, that there are 10,000 denim products to be made in India, some 8,000 products are being done by all the companies. So those are the common products which anybody can use. And then the right industry partners who understand that if we collaborate, what will AI do? AI will give you an intelligence of making that fabric much quicker. So it's a two-way street. The factory as well as the mill will get advantage of getting that fabric. So yes, there is a challenge. The mindset is not to share that data to a large extent. I'll put it this way, there will be some proprietary data with certain mills which they can keep it, but as the time move on, this has to happen, and there is no doubt about it.
Thank you. So it will become easier.
I mean, people have to fall in line. People have to understand that it is only not the benefit what we are getting out of it, but they might also be getting out of it. It's the industry's.
Yeah. Why I'm asking Bodo is because you have experience of Microsoft. So I'm saying is our industry is very cautious about the secrecy and the data, or it's, how exactly you should think,
Yeah.
it will happen?
I think there are two things that you say. On the one end, sure, there's a huge disconnect between the amount of data available within manufacturing and how much data the brands might have. But H&M is not giving away their data either. It's a competitive advantage. The problem there is that the factories actually don't have any. They only have whatever they might have captured from a contract, or there might be a spreadsheet somewhere, or there might be something that's been stored by manual human capture. But it accounts for maybe a single digit percentage point of the enormity of data that they have available in the factory. While I would assume that H&M has found a way to actually extract over 90% of the data that is within their own business. So that's the massive imbalance that must be addressed. To the point of, should it be democratized? I counter by saying no. It should remain a competitive advantage of a factory to have their data to actually do better. Or we would be sitting on a lull within the industry if everything was just openly available. Having said that, the data standards should absolutely be democratized in terms of what data becomes available so that all factories share the same. It's done in costing, it's been done for many years, whether it's GSD or Pro SMV, there are standards in how this is done. The same should be done for my part of an IoT in terms of how machines surface data. We're trying to push standards in that sense. It's absolutely necessary. Then in other industries, there are already best practices of how legally this can be made available, anonymized, and then trained upon, even for free, as long as it's being defined legally. And I think that that's where probably the industry is behind in terms of how to determine these frameworks.
Yes.
And maybe catch up with the others.
Yeah,
Yes.
because why I'm saying that again is that, like what Asim also said, while we are doing the fabric shrinkage in the NIFT project, see, think about this Intertech or Bureau Veritas or all these guys. They're sitting on piles of this data, which we have used one fraction of it from a company to do that. They can do it very easily because they have millions of data. They've tested for all the guys and kept it. But only problem is, at least one guy I've spoken to, he says, I do not know whether it is ethical because it is our client's data. So this kind of things, what probably, what Bodo is saying, some bit probably which is standardized will become common, and then there will be an advantages. I think we can take two questions if from audience anybody wanted to ask. I have two questions came from net, but I will give that a second priority. If anybody in the audience wanted to ask questions, only two. Nobody. Very good. So we'll go by the... Yeah, because then I'll go for the guy. Oh, okay. Yes, please.
Hi, Shruti. I have a question for you, since you mentioned Claude. What is the kind of data that you should not share with Claude, is my concern.
So as a everyday user, they will be using your data for training purposes. So just like you might be cautious in sharing your certain things on social media, I would apply that personally to yourself. And it's a very personal thing, I think. So for example, me, I'm not on social media. I haven't been for the past 15 years. But if you're okay with a certain level of training data going into the model, I mean, you have to realize that sometimes, I've heard my mom say and some people say, oh, I told it this and now it knows this. But it doesn't really work like that, actually. So anything you put into it, you have a conversation with it, maybe 3 months down the line or 6 months down the line, when they aggregate and when they re-upload data, they might use it, it might contribute in some sense to the training. So the risk is very minimal for a normal everyday person of any sort of data being, you being identifiable. In fact, it's much more likely that your clinical records, your hospital records are still, a source of leakage. So I would say in your personal interactions with a GPT, you shouldn't worry, but you should still be more cautious about how the institutes which hold your data are sharing it, what sort of policies do they have in place? Because any good institute should have enterprise level contracts, so anyone who's using API keys is ensuring your data isn't passed on to any GPT. They're not, they will, they can't use your personal names or numbers. That's where I would advise caution still.
Yeah, my question was more aimed towards the business practices.
Right.
While I'm running a business, so what kind of data should not be shared with Claude? For example, you said, to utilize Claude best, you create a folder, put, what you would want everybody as a common knowledge. So what is it that you should not put in there? I'm sure there must be something that we should not.
I mean, I would think maybe at a stretch, anything which is your IP, you shouldn't be putting in. That's what I would be cautious about. So obviously, and personal identifiable information. So coming from a medical background, I always think of HIPAA compliance. So where you have, let's say you have a folder of customers where you've got their names, their numbers, their addresses, and you're saying, let AI map the most efficient delivery route. Don't do that. Don't put in people's names and numbers into it. Anything like that
I think,
very
we need to,
sensitive.
let's say hard stop, because there's a next session coming up. Obviously, there are more questions. They are all here. Catch hold of them anytime. Thank you very much. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you for that very enlightening discussion and such a lovely panel. Ladies and gentlemen, can we have a huge round of applause for our panelists, please? I take this opportunity to call our beloved Dean Academics on stage for the felicitation of our panelists. Ma'am, if I may please call you on stage. Not that ma'am needs any introduction, but a quick profile here, of course. An accomplished academician, researcher, innovator, and author with more than 30 years of experience in textiles, clothing, and apparel engineering. She's also the project director and principal investigator of the prestigious India Size project. And as our Dean Academic, she leads academic transformation at NIFT and is an active mentor for all the faculty and students. Ma'am, I request you to come up on stage for felicitating our lovely panel for today. Ladies and gentlemen, Professor Dr. Nupur Anand, our Dean Academics. I request ma'am to kindly felicitate Mr. Asim Chitkara. Sir, if you may please step upon front. A round of applause for Mr. Asim Chitkara and his beautiful thoughts today that he shared with us. Mr. Bodo Voet, thank you for throwing light, especially on the areas of interest that all of us have towards AI and its implementation on the production floor. Mr. Rakesh Ranjan. Ladies and gentlemen, let's have a round of applause for Mr. Rakesh Ranjan, who shared with us the secrets of AI, if I may say, in the industry. Ms. Seema Agarwal. Ms. Seema, thank you so much again for sharing with us such interesting insights on the AI application in the industry. Ms. Shruti Grover, I think there have been questions buzzing for Ms. Shruti today from the audience, and we've had a full house. Ma'am, I think we can step ahead. Of course, my pleasure to call upon Dr. Prabir Jana for beautifully moderating this entire experience today. And Dr. Rashmi Thakur for presenting the interesting insights on NIFT and AI. Thank you so much, ma'am. It's my pleasure to propose the vote of thanks for this lovely morning. First of all, of course, to our Secretary, ma'am, Ms. Neelam Shami Rao, for being the vision of Bharat Text. Our beloved Director General, Ms. Tanu Kashyap, who's not here in the panel today, but is, of course, the wind behind our wings. Our beloved Dean Academics, the heartbeat of Bharat Text and NIFT. and Professor Archana Gandhi for the soul of these sessions, right from planning and coordinating, and being the patient mentor for all of us. The team, ladies and gentlemen, and if I may request everyone to please step up on stage for a group photo. Professor Dr. Prabir Jana, Professor A.K. Khare, sir, may I please request you to please, step up on stage. Dr. Rashmi Thakur, Dr. Deepak Panghal, and Dr. Ashok Prasad. The team behind this wonderful, wonderful session today on AI-led technologies. It's been a full house, and you've been a wonderful audience. Can I have a huge round of applause, please, for the wonderful panel today? And of course, the student volunteers who've been here today, and all the campuses and the students from all NIFT campuses who've been a lovely audience. Thank you so much for being part of this beautiful journey. And I think we break for tea outside at the corridor. Thank you, everyone.